Hello, how's it going, everybody? Today we are jumping into Matthew chapter 23. Let me get the text up and make sure we're not lagging here. Okay, we're good. So now let's get the text up here. There we go. Yesterday was a really cool reading. I enjoyed yesterday's reading. It took a little while, but we got some questions answered. We raised a few other questions, and it was really interesting. So today, it's looking like it's going to be interesting as well. So without further ado, let's get the volume on and we can get started.
Then Jesus spoke to the multitudes and to his disciples.
The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Therefore, whatever they tell you to observe, that observe and do. But do not do according to their works. For they say and do not.
So respect authority, essentially, was what Jesus is saying. Because now they're in the position of Moses, the leader of Israel. So you need to respect who God has put in charge. But do not according to their works.
Do. For they bind heavy burdens, hard to bear, and lay them on men's shoulders. But they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers.
So that's not it's not the best circumstances, right? Where the teachers, the shepherds of society are not doing what they should be doing, right? They're not behaving the way they should be behaving, but they are your teachers, so you have to respect that, right? Because they're sitting in the seat of Moses, as Jesus said, right? So you got to respect that, but Jesus is also saying, don't do what they're doing, because they're saying and not doing. So it's not the best circumstances, obviously, but I don't know. You gotta make do, you know.
On men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do to be seen by men. They make their phylacteries broad and enlarge the borders of their garments. They love the best places at feasts, the best seats in the synagogues, greetings in the marketplaces, and to be called by men Rabbi. Rabbi! But you, do not be
He's
called
calling
Rabbi,
them out hardcore.
for one is your teacher, the Christ, and you are all brethren. Do not call anyone on earth your father, for one is your Father, he who is in heaven. And do not be called teachers, for one is your teacher, the Christ. But he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. And whoever exalts himself will be humbled.
They'll be really mad at that. Jesus called him. You have only one teacher. Don't call them teachers. There's only one teacher. That's me. They're gonna be upset with that. Well, he didn't really say me. He said the Christ. We all know who that is.
And he who humbles himself will be exalted. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For you neither go in yourselves, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in.
And see, the thing is, this is not a battle that's new. Back in prior to the judgment in the Old Testament that we saw, right? In the people who were the religious elite, the prophets, the priests, they were straying the people. They were leading the people astray. What am I saying? They were leading the people astray, right? They weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. And we're getting there. We're seeing that we're getting there. It's like poetry. It's rhyming. It's like Star Wars. it's you're seeing the same pattern happening. And we talked about that, right? Jesus sent multiple prophets back prior to the judgment. Then, waiting for somebody to rise up also to to lead as an example for the people, to actually show them the way. No one did. So God was like, forget it. I sent all these prophets. Nobody's listening. I'm going to send my son this time. And that's what we were talking about yesterday with the parable of the vineyard, right?
Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For you neither go in yourselves, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers. Therefore you will receive greater condemnation.
For you devour widows' houses, that means because a widow has no means of income, yet she has to continue to pay tithe. So in that sense, they'll have to give until they have nothing left to give.
And make long prayers. Therefore you will receive greater condemnation. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you travel land and sea to win one proselyte. And when he is won, you make him twice as much a son of hell as yourselves. Woe to you, blind guides, who say whoever swears by the temple, it is nothing. But whoever swears by the gold of the temple, he is obliged to perform it. Fools and blind! For which is greater, the gold or the temple that sanctifies the gold? And whoever swears by the altar, it is nothing. But whoever swears by the gift that is on it, he is obliged to perform it. Fools and blind! For which is greater, the gift or the altar that sanctifies the gift? Therefore he who swears by the altar, swears by it, and by all things on it. He who swears by the temple, swears by it, and by him who dwells in it. And he who swears by heaven, swears by the throne of God, and by him who sits on it. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees,
You're just
hypocrites!
getting mad here. Wow.
For you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faith. These you ought to have done without leaving the others undone. Blind guides, who strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you cleanse the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of extortion and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first cleanse the inside of the cup and dish, that the outside of them may be clean also. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you are like whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but inside are full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness. Even so, you also outwardly appear righteous to men, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Because you build the tombs of the prophets and adorn the monuments of the righteous, and say, if we had lived in the days...
No wonder they wanted him crucified. Jesus is going in on them. Holy.
of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophits. Therefore, you are witnesses against...
I was about to say he truly had a rebellious nature, but it's not even. He's not even rebelling. He's just calling out the truth, you know. And it's a rebellion in the eyes of the elite, but it's just truth. That's all it is.
Yourselves that you are sons of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of your father's guilt. Serpents, brood of vipers, how can you escape the condemnation of hell? Therefore, indeed, I send you prophets, wise men, and scribes.
People listening to that must have been in an uproar hearing that.
And crucify.
Angry and cheering.
Some of them
both.
you will scourge in your synagogues and persecute from city to city. That on you may come all the righteous blood shed on the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. Assuredly, I say to you...
Let me pause it there. Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom he murdered between the temple and the altar. Was that... let me see. I'm just looking in the commentary in my Bible here. Abel was the first person murdered in the Old Testament, yeah. Zechariah was the last. Zechariah's death is recorded in 2 Chronicles 24, 20 to 22, the last book in the Hebrew canon. Jesus was saying that from the beginning of the Bible until the end, followers of God had often been treated in this manner. Zechariah the prophet is called the son of Berechiah in Zechariah 1:1. It is possible that Jehoiada was the grandfather of the murdered Zechariah, and Berechiah was his father. It is less probable, although possible, that Zechariah's father had two names, Jehoiada and Berechiah. Okay, so they're just... Because in 2 Chronicles 24, Zechariah is called the son of Jehoiada. So there is a bit of a confusion with the names there. Is Berechiah and Jehoiada the same person, or was Jehoiada the grandfather? You know. But dang, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar, assuredly I say to you, all these things will come upon this generation.
All these things will come upon this generation. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen
Literally
gathers her
repeating
chicks under her wings.
what happened before
but you were not
in the
willing.
Old Testament.
See, your house is left to you desolate. For I say to you, you shall see me no more till you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
Yeah, that must have riled them up a whole bunch too. And see, I can understand why Jesus is upset, because Jesus is not looking at it right now, right? He's looking top down. He's seeing the whole timeline. He's seen how much Israel has ignored the prophets of the past, right? All the major and minor prophets in the Old Testament. So this is not like a singular incident. This is it came to the point where God had to send his own son because they didn't listen to any of the other messengers. So it's to that point where it's like, come on, guys, you're still not listening? All the prophets that I've sent, and now I'm sending my own son, and you're... So I can understand the frustration here.
Then Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came up to show him the buildings of the temple.
Do you not see all these things? Assuredly I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down.
Now as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately.
Tell us, when will these things be?
And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will...
Let me pause it here real quick. My Bible has quite a bit to say on this, so I'm curious to see what it has to say. The discourse of chapter 23 had evidently been given in the temple precincts. The first temple, built by Solomon, was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BC. The second temple, built under the encouragement of Haggai and Zechariah, and the leadership of Zerubbabel and Joshua was completed after a considerable delay in 516 BC. This second temple was completely and lavishly renovated by Herod the Great. He began the work around 20 BC, but the renovations were not completed during the lifetime of Christ. The work was finally finished in AD 64, and the temple stood completed for only 6 years before it was reduced to rubble by the Romans. The devastation of the temple by the Romans in AD 70 was so thorough that the precise location of the sanctuary is still unknown today. That's crazy.
What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
This is also really cool. We're not talking about a prophet prophesying. This is Jesus himself talking about his own second coming. This is not a prophet getting a vision and, he's prophesying what will happen. This is like the guy who's coming is telling you how it's going to happen. So you can't get any better than this.
Tell us, when will these things be?
And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet.
Has this happened? I know a lot of people say that, wars and rumors of wars we've seen, but I am the Christ, people coming and saying that I am the Christ and will deceive many. Have there been people who say that, I am the Christ, and people actually believe it, like on a decently large enough scale? I haven't heard of it. I know there's probably, like, I've seen, like, random things, like, here and there, people saying, hey, I'm Jesus and stuff, but it doesn't really amount to anything, But here Jesus is saying that they will say, I'm the Christ and will deceive many. I haven't seen this last part. Maybe I'm just unaware. Maybe there have been instances where they have deceived many, or it's not happened yet.
For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended, will betray one another, and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because
we're leading up to Judgment Day, right? We're leading up to that. And we're following a very similar pattern to what led up to God's judgment of Jerusalem. False prophets again.
Lawlessness will abound. The love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation...
That's interesting. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. So is this sentence here talking and this gospel of the kingdom, is this gospel of the kingdom what Jesus just said? This whole section Jesus was talking about, is that what this is? Is that the gospel of the kingdom? Or is it saying that after you endure till the end, the gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come? I'm not sure the order of events here, because we're saying the end will come, so I'm assuming this might be the same end, and if that's the case, then this whole section is the gospel of the kingdom, right? Let me pull up a commentary. Keep misspelling that. Let's do it from 12. Jesus also promised that before the end, the gospel would go out to the whole world. The persecution, false prophets, and general downgrade of society would not prevent the spread of the gospel. Some claim this has already been done, and that therefore the end of the age is necessarily close at hand. This conclusion is open to grave doubt. Everything depends on the meaning of the words "for a testimony." Let's read it again. But he who endures to the end shall be saved, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. Where is as a testimony? For a testimony. I don't know. The church is to take this seriously as their duty. However, God assured that it will happen. I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, "Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come." But my question is, and this gospel of the kingdom, what is this gospel? What we just talked about here, or the overall gospel? I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth. What do you guys think? Because it's using the word "this," that's why it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick things apart so specifically, because then you can say, oh, they messed up with the translation or whatever, But the word "this" makes me feel like they're talking about this section in particular, and so this section talking about his second coming will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. So there'll be a warning. Will let people know that Jesus is coming back, and then the end will come. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. So basically, the reason why I'm sort of like staying on this is because after they're saved, is the gospel going to go around, and then the end will come? Or while you're enduring everything, is that also when the gospel is being preached around? Because we're talking about, because it says this, I'm assuming it's talking about this section, and then because it's saying, then the end will come, and after you endure to the end, you shall be saved. I'm assuming that this gospel of the kingdom, this talking about this section, and it's being preached while we are enduring to the end, and then the end will come. Because while we are enduring, we're probably preaching this gospel,
Him understand.
Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Then many false prophets will rise up, but the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place,
Whoever reads, let him understand.
Let me pause it there. $15. The abomination of desolation. Oh, my Bible is talking about this gospel of the kingdom. The final evidence of the end times will be the universal proclamation of the gospel. The antecedent of this, the word this, must be verse 13. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel, that if you endure till the end, you'll be saved, will be spread, will be preached in all the world. The good news is that the final battle of the tribulation, known as Armageddon, will not result in the destruction of all people. The Lord Jesus Christ will intervene, bringing an end to the destruction and preserving a people for his kingdom. Okay. So that's pretty much what we sort of settled on with how we would interpret this. So that's cool. Now, the abomination of desolation literally means the abomination that makes desolate. This prophecy comes from Daniel, specifically Daniel chapter 9 and chapter 11 and chapter 12. Daniel 11:31 refers to Antiochus IV, who desecrated the temple and set up an idol to Zeus in it. His actions were a prelude to what the ultimate man of sin will do. In AD 70, Titus destroyed Jerusalem, burned the city, and set up an idol to mock the Jews. Significantly, Paul speaks of the Antichrist at the end time, setting himself up as a god also.
You see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place.
Whoever reads, let him understand.
Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house, and let him who is in the
right. If you are in the right mindset, if you're the big picture thinker that Jesus is trying to promote, right? Telling the disciples not to even take 2 tunics with you when you're going out to minister. You won't do this at all. You won't even think of going back to your house to take anything.
Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house, and let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. And pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be.
So boom, right there, Jesus expects us to continue to abide by the Sabbath in the end times. So even if you're like, so you need to rest on the Sabbath. Even if it means you're going to get stuck. If you're endangering your life here while you're going through this tribulation, and pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be a great tribulation. So the reason why this is also really important is because a lot of Christians think that you don't have to abide by the Sabbath nowadays. You don't have to keep the Sabbath day holy. But Jesus here is talking about not in the future from today, This hasn't come yet. We haven't gone through the Great Tribulation yet. We're talking about his second coming. And you should still be abiding by the Sabbath, right? So the Sabbath is not going anywhere. So it's not like, okay, Sabbath, that's something that's, we did in the Old Testament, but that's not something we need to follow today. No. That's not what Jesus is saying at all. Jesus is saying, even up until my second coming, while you're fleeing from the tribulation, you still need to abide by the Sabbath.
Those who are nursing babies in those days, and pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Then if anyone says to you, "Look, here is the Christ," or "There," do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See.
Okay, who are the elect? Are the elect the chosen? Let me see. 24:22. Those days will be shortened means that God will place a limit on the tribulation. Christians, I'm guessing that's what they're referring to, the elect, right? Believers of Christ will not have to endure persecution forever. Note the meaning of the good news of the kingdom in verse 13 and 14. Christ will intervene and prevent complete genocide. Let me take it back to 16 here. Let's see what this commentary is saying. At the time of the war ending in the destruction of the temple at AD 70, many of the Christians did flee, hiding in the clefts of Petra. Some believe in the final fulfillment of this prophecy. Some believe the final fulfillment of this prophecy in the future desecration of the temple. See Daniel 9:27, and the subsequent setting up of an image of the man of sin in the most holy place. When that occurs, everyone in Judea must flee to the mountains. Flee to the mountains. So flee to the mountains, because Jesus also said it before, right? Even to the disciples, if you're facing persecution, don't stand there and take it. Get out of that situation, right? We saw Jesus doing it as well here in the New Testament already, right? Don't face it. Don't be brave and face it. Get out of there. Get out of that situation. It's fine. And so, flee to the mountains. So so flee away from the rest of the big cities and all that stuff. Protect yourself. Because the judgment is coming, whether we can't stop it, just like the judgment on Jerusalem in the Old Testament, right? There was no stopping it.
And wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you beforehand. Therefore, if they say to you, "Look, he is in the desert," do not go out. Or, "Look, he is in the inner rooms," do not believe it. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For wherever the carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light.
So Jesus is saying his coming will be sudden, right? For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. So it's not going to be like, hey, Christ is over there. He's living around in that desert over there. You can go see him. No, it's going to be boom. It's going to be sudden. It's not going to be, it's not going to be like, you can go over there, check him out. He's been there for like a week. Have you heard that, Christ is there? Go look. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be sudden. And all eyes shall see him too also, right?
The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the... Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven.
That's big also, because there are people who worship the sun, moon, and stars as gods, as deities, as higher powers. And Jesus is saying that the heavens will be shaken. The stars will fall from heaven, right? Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened. The moon will not give its light. The sun will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. I'm curious to see what my Bible's got to say about all that. Let's see. 29. Does it skip it completely? Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened. This verse moves chronologically to the close of the tribulation, a period that will be marked by monumental cosmic disturbances. That's all it says. It doesn't try to explain it, because that's tough to explain, right? Because our star is going to fall from heaven, you know? But if you remember, we talked about this in Genesis and a few other times when it popped up. The way the Hebrews viewed the cosmos. Hebrew cosmology. Was a large one. Or where's one with stars? Whatever, you get the point though, right? Like everything, oh, here's star. There are stars in that, right? So for stars to fall on the earth, for the moon and sun to be darkened in this model, I mean, that's easy. It's fall to the earth. But our modern view, it doesn't really make sense, right? So, I don't know, it just leaves you with a few questions. Because you have stars that are multitudes bigger than the earth. How are stars going to fall to heaven, right? So, either Jesus didn't mean stars when he said stars will fall from heaven, and then that leads into a complete different rabbit hole. Would Jesus misspeak? Or will stars fall from heaven? And stars actually do fall from heaven, then that's going to change your that would change your worldview right there. You know? Also here, the moon will not give its light. If Jesus meant to say that, that changes your worldview right there too. Because in our current belief, that is the moon reflects the sun's light. So it doesn't have its own light. So again, there are questions here.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near, at the doors. Assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be.
So extremely sinful, right? It was so bad that God destroyed the entire earth with a flood, right? A global disaster.
For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also will the coming of the Son of Man be. Then 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and the other left.
So I think this is where the idea of the rapture comes from. Like, have you seen the show Leftovers, where you're just scooped up into heaven? And then 2 men will be in the field. One will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken and the other left. So in the middle of working, one will be taken and the other left. Watch their... Okay, let me see what my commentary's got to say. Um, 24, 40. Doesn't even touch on it. I notice that about my Bible. Whenever it gets to a hard topic, it doesn't say anything. 24:40, right? Then 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. Jesus here pointed to curious disappearances, to a catching away of some at the coming of the Son of Man, as described in 1 Thessalonians 4:16 and to 17. Let's read that. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And thus we shall always be with the Lord. Right, that's how I've always viewed it. But maybe there is a good time difference between. And the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air. But see, the thing is, if they happened right after one another, right, the dead rise and they get taken to heaven, and then everyone else who's alive gets taken to heaven. If they happened one after the other, I don't think, where is it? We'd go back to working in the field or go back to grinding at the mill. You know what I mean? There's probably there's probably some time between the two. Oh, it was here. There's probably some time between the dead rising first and then the remaining who are alive will be caught up in heaven with them together. Probably some time difference between the two. That's what I'm thinking right now. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know. Taken is the same verb used in these right here. It implies to be taken. It applies to take someone to be with you, and therefore here points to the salvation rather than the destruction of the one taken. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. Since the day and hour of the coming are unknowable, Jesus' followers must be on constant guard for his coming. Well, you don't think about it being on constant guard. You just, what were the two things that Jesus said? The most important commandments, which is essentially all the commandments: love and respect God, and love and respect others around you. That's it. But I'm curious to see if they talked about the stars and all that stuff in this commentary. The sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light. Several prophetic passages describe the cosmic disturbances that will precede and surround the glorious return of Jesus. We read Isaiah, so let's read what happened in Isaiah. All the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled up like a scroll, and their host shall fall down as the leaf falls from the vine, and as fruit falling from a fig tree. The sign of the Son of Man will appear in the heaven. It is difficult to say exactly what this sign is. It seems to precede his return as described in Revelation 19:11. Perhaps this sign is somehow related to the incredible cosmic disturbances that will precede the great event. So it doesn't get into the specifics also. Yeah, no one wants to touch that.
So will the coming of the Son of Man be? Then 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his master made ruler over his household to give them food in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his master, when he comes, will find so doing. Assuredly, I say to you that he will make him ruler over all his goods. But if that evil servant says in his heart, my master is delaying his coming, and begins to beat his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunkards, the master of that servant will come on a day when he is not looking for him, and at an hour that he is not aware of, and will cut him in two and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
So we shouldn't be faithful to God in order to gain a reward of entering heaven. We should be faithful to God in order to be faithful to God. That's why Jesus keeps saying, look at the bigger picture. Understand why you're doing what you're doing, why these laws were put into place, why you're following the laws, right? Why you're obeying God. You know? Get the foundation right, get the foundation right, and everything else will be fine. Make sure the tree trunk is right or whatever, and the fruit will be fine, right? So if you're doing things for the right reason, if you have your core, if you have your foundation all set, you're set. You know, you don't have to worry about. You don't have to have this mentality of, hey, how long do I need to be on my good behavior for Jesus to come, right? Because I want to get into heaven, so I gotta be good in order to get in heaven. No, you just be good because that's the right thing to do. and that's who you are as a person, right? And you better yourself each and every day. So that is what so you become a good person if you're not, I mean, no one is 100% sinless, right? We all sin. So those are things we need to work on. And so you work on that every single day. You strive to be the best you can be. Remember, look at the big picture. Make sure you have a pure heart. You're sincere in your actions. And what did Jesus say, right? If you sin, if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off, right? So remove temptations from your life. So you're showing, hey, I'm trying my best to do my best. And right, like that. Yeah, get your core, get your foundation set, and you'll be fine. Don't do it to attain the reward of going to heaven, because at some point you're going to feel some sort of fatigue, because what if Jesus doesn't come in your lifetime? It's like you're working towards something that you're never going to have, and you're never going to feel fulfilled, and you're just going to be drained. But if you get that foundation right, you'll be fine. So that's going to be it for today. We stumbled. There were some big questions that arose that unfortunately I don't have the answers to right now. Maybe some more reading, some more studying, we'll get the answers. The thing is, with those type of things, we shouldn't try to make sense of things with our own small understanding, with our own worldview, our own presuppositions, right? We should try and understand it, try and look at things from an open mind, and see what God's trying to say, what Jesus is trying to say, And then I think we'll be able to gain that big picture much easier. So that's going to be it for today. Tomorrow we'll jump into chapter 25 with another parable of the wise and foolish virgins. Ooh, and then we're going to get into the crucifixion. So hope you guys enjoyed today's reading. Tomorrow we'll jump into that. And hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you tomorrow, right? Take care. Bye-bye.